Hey guys, it's Bethany from Back to Jerusalem, and we wanted to give you a very special sneak peek into a chapter of our newest book, Jesus in North Korea, bringing you testimonies and stories from what God is doing inside of North Korea today. Refugees returning to North Korea. Tired and hungry, I was ready to collect my phone at the Chinese border station and head to a hotel in Yanji, China. It was October 2009 and I had just been in North Korea for almost 2 weeks working on a business platform for Chinese missionaries. I never bring my computer or phone into North Korea and my brain goes crazy without access to the outside world. After crossing the bridge to North Korea, I rushed to get my phone so I could begin reading the latest news. Not long after turning my phone on, I got a call from Esther. "I need your help," she said in Chinese, simple enough for me to understand. Without asking many questions, I quickly traveled to a safe house that she had in the city of Yanji, China. When I arrived in Yanji, I quickly met with 2 American missionary friends who had both been in the US military, and together we went to see her. Esther had a safe house for North Korean refugees, located on the 4th floor of an old apartment building. In the safe house, Esther would give refugees a place to stay, food to eat, and clothes to wear. She became well known among the North Korean refugee community. Many North Korean refugees shared her phone number with others, knowing that she would help them and provide a place for them to hide in her safe house. Not only did Esther provide shelter, food, money, and clothing, but she also preached the gospel. Many refugees received Christ in that safe house. In the late fall evening of October, I climbed the dirty grey concrete stairs up to the 4th floor with my American friends. We paused halfway for a few minutes and listened to see if anybody was following. When we heard nothing than an old dog barking outside, we continued up the stairs. I didn't knock on the door. Instead, I sent a text message to Esther, telling her we were standing outside her door. With a quiet click of the lock and a slow creak of the steel hinges, a small empty threshold was created, allowing us to step through. Esther stood hiding behind the door and closed it quickly when we were all inside. As I shuffled around the room looking for somewhere to sit, I saw a stunned North Korean sitting on the floor. His eyes were wide, full of fear. He had never seen foreigners before, so I smiled with the hopes of easing his anxiety, but it didn't seem to work. Esther spoke some words in Korean to calm him down. I wasn't certain what she said, but it did seem to work. Esther introduced me to the man that she called Mr. Lee, not his real name. He was unlike the other North Koreans that Esther had helped. He had been in a re-education camp for 3 years. When he was released from his re-education camp, he returned home to find his family starving, with no food and no warm clothing. Mr. Lee knew his family didn't stand a chance of surviving North Korea's harsh winter. So, like many North Koreans, he tried to risk his life to go to China in search of food, money, and warm clothing. Getting to China was his only hope. When he arrived in China, other North Korean refugees told him about Esther. When he called her, he immediately felt something different. Instead of a rash, harsh voice on the other side of the line as he would expect in North Korea, he heard a sweet voice from a motherly woman who genuinely cared about his situation. Esther sent a car to secretly pick him up and bring him to the safe house. Upon arrival, Mr. Lee was given a warm welcome. Esther gave the man her husband's clothes to wear so that he could change out of his tattered clothes from North Korea. Several other members of the Chinese underground house church visited the safe house and assisted Mr. Lee. Soon, he was surrounded by fellow Christians who cared about him, a feeling he had never heard before. When Esther shared her faith with him, he desperately wanted to know more. After several days of Esther sharing the Bible with him, he cried out, "I have to take this message back to my village. They need to hear this." "I need your help to get him back across the border," Esther said to me. "Can you help?" I nodded yes, even though I wasn't certain how we would be able to assist. I was used to smuggling Bibles and missionaries across the border, but I had no idea how we would smuggle a refugee. I thought of one of the American missionaries who was with us. He had experience smuggling drugs into the United States from Mexico, and I thought he might have some ideas. Then I remembered he had served time in prison because he got caught, and I hoped that we could smuggle the North Korean across the border without being caught. After a few moments, one of the other missionaries and I developed a plan to use 2 vehicles. One of the other American missionaries and I would ride in the lead vehicle, and Mr. Lee would ride in the second vehicle. Under the cover of darkness, we will drive you down to the Tumen River, I explained to him, using small pieces of cardboard on a small table. We will drive along the river with the lights off so that we are not easy to see. We know a location where the river is narrow and should be easy to cross, but there are many patrols along the river that we must watch out for. As I was speaking, Mr. Lee said something in Korean. What if we see a border guard or the Chinese police? Esther asked, speaking on behalf of Mr. Lee. I will be in the lead vehicle and we will provide a cover for you, putting our vehicle purposefully between you and the threat. If we see a border guard, for instance, we will signal for your vehicle to leave while we provide a blocking maneuver, allowing your vehicle to make it safely back to the safe house. What if a Chinese police car tries to pull us over? I reached down and reshuffled the pieces of cardboard to explain our plan. We will be in the first unit, I said, and you will be in the second. We will attempt to ram the police car with our vehicle, hopefully rendering it unable to pursue yours, allowing you to flee the scene and make it back to the safe house. Mr. Lee's mouth gaped open when Esther explained the scenario. He is asking why you would do this, Esther said. He is confused because he has always been taught that Americans are the enemy of North Koreans. I smiled back at him and I said to Esther, please tell him we are no longer enemies, we are family. The moment he became a believer, we no longer identified as North Korean and American, but as sons of the Heavenly Father and brothers in the kingdom of heaven. Mr. Lee smiled at the response. It was the first time I had seen him smile the entire time. I'd been sharing the book of Galatians with him, Esther said, acknowledging a coincidental timeline of my comment. Before you go, I said, changing the subject, we have a few things we want to send with you to share with your family and friends. One of the American missionaries removed a backpack from his back and began to pull out a large number of MP3 players that had the audio Bible installed. He showed Mr. Lee how to use them and how to teach others to use them. He also gave him several MP4 players with the Jesus film installed and a few $100 US worth of Chinese currency. I have about 20 Christians in my village. I will give these to you, Mr. Lee said, as he placed everything into a dark green rubber bag. Esther gave Mr. Lee a mobile phone he could use whenever he was close to the Chinese border. Mr. Lee also placed the mobile phone in the bag so it would not get wet crossing the river. After everything was loaded into the bag, we all gathered and laid hands on Mr. Lee. We knew it was most likely to be the final time that we would ever see him. After we prayed, we left the safe house and loaded into 2 vehicles. We drove for several hours down dark roads along the river, looking for the perfect location until we found a dark place by the railroad tracks. Mr. Lee jumped out and for a moment disappeared into the night. We followed behind, closely looking and listening for any sounds that could indicate guards in the area. Once the situation was safe, Mr. Lee stripped down and put all of his clothes into his rubber bag, and then he pulled out one of the most brilliantly colored flotation devices I had ever seen. Even in the dark of night, I could see it was a child's pink and purple swimming ring. Suddenly, all of our military tactical maneuvers we were performing seemed useless with the pink and purple flotation device. It was an embarrassing target indicator, but somehow it worked. Mr. Lee quietly placed his bag atop the ring, pushed it into the water, and swam across the frigid river, pulling the small child-floating ring behind him. Once he reached the other side, he put his clothes back on and crawled into the high weeds. We saw that he got as far as he could before daylight came, and then he kept himself hidden until night, when he would carefully then make his way back home. This wasn't his last trip to China. His time there showed him a way in and out of the country. He built a network of connections, letting him move freely without raising suspicion. This marked the start of his mission to bring the light of the gospel into the darkness of North Korea. Lee wasn't alone in this. Many North Korean refugees have crossed into China, found the good news of Jesus Christ, and then returned home to share that message with their family and friends inside North Korea. This is from our newest book, Jesus in North Korea, available on Amazon and backtojerusalem.com. God bless.